My guest today is Laura Templeton. Laura is a global speaker and the best-selling author of 30-Second Success, Ditch the Pitch and Start Connecting. Laura is a brand communications strategist and a co-conspirator to evolving consultants and service providers who are stepping into creating something bigger, more powerful, and imaginative, one that requires a framework and value-based communications. Laura inspires audiences around the world to dig deep and find the words that define who they are and how they serve others, helping business owners and professionals lead with love and compassion is her passion and her mission. She's also a certified USA archery instructor. She loves shooting, competing, and teaching people of all ages. And we get into that a bit in this interview today. So other topics we cover is what is the story behind the 30-Second Success book and what made her write it? I ask her a lot of questions about the backstory there. And then also when working with clients, she talks about what she feels is the biggest challenge. And most importantly, she focuses on creating valuable connections. So why is it so important to have these connections? And what are some of the steps that we can do to get started making better connections? Let's jump right in. Hey, Laura, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I have one question right out of the gate. I noticed that you call yourself a chief instigator, and that you define yourself as you say you're a co-conspirator to evolving consultants. And I'm like, okay. And you also teach, you're certified USA archery instructor. So I'm like, okay, so she's an instigator. She's a co-conspirator. Sounds like a lot of covert ops. I'm kind of nervous I would be nervous if we were in person.
So maybe not.
The archery was really interesting to me. The only sport I ever did in high school that I actually liked. Do you still do it? Are you still?
I do. Yes. So the chief instigator is an homage to my dad. My dad was one of those people that he could, no matter where you were, strike up a conversation with a total stranger, and just by asking really great questions. So I learned very early on as a child to just have conversations with people and ask lots of investigative questions. We would always tease my dad about being an instigator, and I own that title with pride because it's something that I'm really proud of that I learned from my dad very early on. So, and then as far as being a co-conspirator, I love digging into people's businesses. I love helping them really see themselves for who they are, see them the way I see them the way the world sees them. Because sometimes, especially small business owners and entrepreneurs play it small because they don't experience life from someone else's eyes.
Yeah.
So being able to be a reflective mirror for them, helping them go deeper, really experience what it would be like to be able to do the work that they love to do and work with the clients they want to work with. Sometimes you have to have someone who will align themselves with you and push you forward. And that's what I love to do with clients and people that I meet. The archery is something that I absolutely love to do. It's my zen. My husband and I have been shooting side by side for years. We shot with our kids when our kids were younger and growing up. We're all certified archery instructors. My kids have let their certifications lapse, but my husband and I keep ours up to date because we just love teaching. And anybody that wants to learn how to shoot archery, we're right there. I mean, I've taught 5-year-olds, I've taught adults. It doesn't matter as long as they can hold a bow, or even if they need a little bit of help, I'm happy to do it. It's just one of those sports that I feel anybody can do, and you can do alongside of your kids. So it's really interesting. It's one of the few family sports that's out there that people can enjoy together with their children. And I've watched dads and daughters in competitions, watching my own daughter and my husband enjoy the sport together has been amazing. And yes, both of my grandbabies have their first bows already. They haven't started shooting yet, but they're ready. I keep saying to my daughter, they're 5 and 6. We've taught 5 and 6-year-olds, and you used to love teaching 5 and 6-year-olds.
It's just not a sport you hear about. too often.
No.
You don't at all.
No.
But yeah, so when people talk about their target audience, you're thinking to yourself, you don't even know what that is to me.
Yeah, I know what a target is. Yeah, definitely.
Well, yeah. Well, I want to jump into your book and the story behind it. So, what is the story behind your book, The 30-Second Success? Ditch the pitch and start connecting. How did that all come about?
So my book really was a culmination of a lot of the work that I do with business owners and professionals, and understanding that deep need for someone to have a 30-second message for networking and video. And I started teaching it. It's based on the courses that I've designed. It's funny because I did the courses first, then I created a workbook to go with the courses, then I created a book. So it's kind of like reverse. Most people do the book first and create everything else. I went the opposite way. But putting my book out there just really gives an opportunity to get it into the hands of people. And my book is really designed to help people understand that there's a simple formula to create your 30-second message, which I teach from stage. I teach it in my book. I teach it in classes and workshops. I give it all away. I want people to have that formula, but more importantly, it talks about connection, creating connection, going beyond the 30-second message, really understanding the purpose of your 30-second message. It's not to attract people to your business. It's not a sales pitch. That's the misconception a lot of people have when they're networking, or even when they're creating a video that talks about their business. It's not about you. It's about who's your ideal client. It's understanding your ideal client in a deep way that connects with them emotionally. When you start to tell someone else's story and it becomes relatable to them, then they're attracted to having a deeper conversation with you. And it's very powerful to be able to do that. But then taking that to the next step. What do you do when you've got someone's attention? What do you do when somebody wants to have a conversation with you? It's just like, even sit on social media. I'm using the DM all the time, messaging people. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, wait, when you connect with somebody and you invited somebody to connect with you on LinkedIn, and you're not having a conversation with them in the DM, and they're like, no, we're just connecting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, for what purpose?
Right. And I think it's a little scary because you hear the term pitch slap, where people are so, and that happens to me a lot. People will you can tell it's like a cut and paste DM. It's not even personalized. I think we don't want to be that person. I mean, I'm speaking for myself too. Like, I'm hesitant because what I try to do is get to know the person a little bit more before I get into anything else. I had somebody, it was a new connection. He had a very interesting approach. In fact, I was going to post about this on LinkedIn. He saw that I lived in Arizona, and his DM to me after I reached out to him, because I saw we're both in marketing. And he said, he said, I heard Scottsdale, the best city in Arizona. Agree or disagree? What are your thoughts? Like, it was total random thing. And I didn't, so I laughed to myself, and we ended up going back and forth. And he said, how can I support you? I said, comment on my post. I'll comment on yours. And he says, okay. It's been ongoing since then. So, but that's rare. And I think that, I mean, do you agree that there's kind of a fear behind doing that kind of outreach? Or
Oh, absolutely. And it has happened to me multiple times where I've had people that I'll just get on a quick call with them, and it's like they jump right into selling, or they tell you that they're not going. I love when they tell you that they're not going to try and sell you anything, but they do,
right,
in a roundabout way. Okay, you're really being kind of obvious here. I find that happens. It's interesting because I've actually had people ask me if I was automated, or if it was really me sending messages. I said, oh, I must be really sending good messages if I sound like an automated service.
I've had people ask me that too.
Interesting. Yeah. And but I also believe that people will look at your profile first.
Mm-hmm.
And when I connect with someone, I always, look at their profile very quickly, just kind of get a feel for who they are. What are they posting? Are they actively posting?
Right.
What are they talking about? Because if it's a genuine person, very authentic, they're putting their heart out there, they're really about helping people, then that's who I want to connect with.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of people who know what to do on LinkedIn will know that. I mean, it's because it's always, the thing with LinkedIn, and this is mistake just a misconception I had when I really started getting active a couple of years ago on LinkedIn was that I thought, you just post a link to a blog post or you post an article, or I recently got on Sales Navigator and I'm not sure I'm going to keep up with it because I'm looking at the people who are supposed to be a match for my clients or potential clients. And the only posts that I see from them are announcing a new person on staff, a trip. It's all just, it's things, for one, I can't really comment on because I don't know these people. I don't know what this thing was. And once in a while, I'll find somebody who's actually very active. People want to connect with people. It's been shown time and again. It's B2B, but it's still people to people. And I think that some people still don't quite get that. Do you feel like that's one of the challenges working with clients? Like what do you get back from clients all the time that you're like, okay, this comes up a lot as a challenge? Like, what do you see?
I think the biggest challenge for a lot of my clients and the audiences that I'm speaking with is the overwhelm. So we're connected. I thought what I thought you were going to say about being on LinkedIn Navigator is like all of a sudden you're like being connected with all these people, and it's like, okay, wait, it's too much. Because for me and a lot of my clients, they like to build relationships. They like to communicate with people, and it's the idea of how do I keep up with this as my network grows and expands? There are some people that are going to stay top of mind, and there's other people that are going to be in and out of your life. Just like your friends, like your friends list. You have friends that stick with you forever. You have friends that are with you for a time. And then there's friends that leave and they come back. So it's very much the same when you're networking and building your connections and growing your business on social media. But I think the biggest challenge that I find, and a lot of audiences will ask me, is, okay, you're telling me that, I need to build my network, build my connections, have all these relationships. How do I manage it from a time perspective?
Yeah.
Because it can get overwhelming to have 4, 5, 6 virtual chats in a day.
Yeah.
So how do you stay on top of that? So there's some active things that you can do to make sure that you're following up, make sure that if you said that you were going to make an introduction, do it right then and there. Don't wait till later, because guess what happens? Later never happens.
Right.
Later comes and you're onto something else. And, really being purposeful in your connection requests, being purposeful in what you're offering, being purposeful in how you're helping other people. I'm introducing people constantly.
That needs to be introduced instead of just reaching out to someone that you connected with because you talk about the same topics, but you've never had a conversation. Well, what do you suggest as like an opening DM for somebody who connected with you? And is it different if I'm the one reaching out or if they connect with me?
Oh yeah, definitely. It is different. If someone sends you an invite to connect, first of all, I always look to see if they've sent me a message as to why they want to connect. And if they didn't send me a message as to why they want to connect, then I'm really curious about their profile. I'll take a look at their profile, see if it's somebody that we have some similarities, speaks my language, is consistently posting, not just there to build their connections up and really not delivering value. But what are they talking about? What are they sharing? Are they connected with a lot of people that I know? So if we have a lot of connections in common, that's something that I look for. But in respect to how do you invite someone to connect? First of all, when I ask somebody to connect, I always send it with a message. I always send a message. I came across one of your posts. I absolutely love what you had to say. I would like to connect here on LinkedIn, perhaps get to know you a little bit more and see how we can support one another, or see if there's an opportunity for us to collaborate. What is it that you're looking for from the relationship? If you're not, unless it's like, oh my gosh, this is somebody who I would love to work with, or they serve the same clients as me, perhaps we could have some kind of collaborative opportunity here. And, just go from there. It's just be genuine with your message. That's what I tell people all the time. Just be genuine with your message. Don't make it cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can make templates. If it's easier for you to say, okay, I'm going to go in and there's a certain group of people that I'm looking to connect with, especially if you're using Navigator, certain group of people, use a template. But again, make it personal.
Yeah.
Don't just, make it personal. Why do you want to connect? What are you looking for? I have one that I'm working on right now to try to connect with more speaker ventilators because I want to get on more speaking stages. So I ask good questions in my connection requests a lot of times. I ask a question like, are you looking for more speakers that speak to both corporate and professionals? Who are your audiences? I'll ask questions about that and what kind of help do you need in bringing the right speakers to your audience?
Yeah. Yeah. Cause sometimes I get stuck with wondering how to start a conversation. And I think part of it is sometimes I start conversations in the DMs and it's like you said earlier, it gets to be overwhelming, especially for me, if there's more than one person, because sometimes it's chit chatty and I'm not like, I just don't want to waste my time or their time. And it's like, especially the ones that DM you and then just say hi. It's like, what is that about? What do you have a rule? This is kind of a random question. When you reach out to someone and you send a note, because this has happened to me a number of times, and you think you have a lot in common and they don't respond and they don't connect, do you give them a certain amount of time? Because I've been doing like after 2 weeks, if I don't hear anything, I withdraw the invitation. Do you have any suggestions for that or?
Necessarily withdraw the invitation, but I don't spend a whole lot of time on it. I'll, maybe circle back later on. A lot of times people are that, and I think that's why it's important to see if they're posting frequently before you even send them a request. Because if they're not posting frequently or commenting, what's their activity like? If you see that every other month they're doing something, then they're not on LinkedIn all that often.
Right.
Use their email and send them an email message. Most people in their contact information in the header will have an email. If it's somebody you really want to connect with, send them an email. Hey, I saw your profile on LinkedIn. Seems like you're not super active there, so I thought I'd send you an email. I would love to connect and learn more about your work.
Okay, that's a good idea. I think part of it, as an introvert, I'm always like, for one, I value relationships deeply, but I don't connect. I don't like connecting with just random people. I mean, if someone sends me an invite, it's pretty rare that I don't connect, even if it's someone I don't think is a real, like, I just, as long as they're not going to pitch me something, it's fine. But yeah, I always think, am I getting too aggressive with my outreach? And, like this, I'm thinking of one person in particular who's super active on LinkedIn, very funny posts. He's a marketing person. I really enjoy your posts. I get a kick out of your humor. I'd love to connect. Nothing. And I know he's on there all the time. So I withdrew the invitation after a few weeks because to me, it's like, because I know they send reminders, this person is asked and it's like, okay, he's probably gotten a reminder and I should just quit. So am I quitting too soon? Should I send an email if it's somebody I think, or I just don't know how to interpret silence. It's always a problem.
My feelings are so hurt because he didn't accept my request. No, I get it because, and the other thing you have to remember, sometimes people that are posting regularly are not always the ones that are managing their own account.
Oh, okay. That could be true. Yeah.
So if someone else is managing his account and posting for him, or maybe he has his posts scheduled to be dropped, he may not be, maybe they're not actively managing his connection requests or his DM.
Yeah, that could be, because a lot of people do hire ghostwriters.
Yeah, I would just give it a little bit more time and give it a little bit more time, or send him another message. Hey, what, don't you like me? Don't you want to be friends? No,
I'm getting it too personally is what I'm getting.
If you can imagine how many people he probably get requests like that from. The other thing too is I have found that people are more apt, especially people who are considered thought leaders or posting a lot, and they've got 20,000 followers as compared to my 5,000 followers. They get a lot of people messaging them. But if you are actively commenting on their content, they're more apt to accept your connection request.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they are very guarded. A lot of your higher level thought leaders are very protective of who they allow into their connection requests. I have, and that a lot of times, I don't know if you've noticed this, there are some people I'll go to connect with them and it says, oh, you need to know this person's email. Yeah. I gotta go. Now I gotta go to their website and figure out what their email is.
That's too much work. I usually just play at that point.
Right. Exactly. Like, really? You're like that picky about who you connect with? Why? Now I definitely need to be on your list.
Yeah, exactly. If it's that exclusive, I want to be on it.
Right. I admit I went in.
And you talk about like visual and verbal brands needing to be cohesive. So what do you mean by that?
So one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is your verbal brand, if you have the right brand message that really resonates with who you are, what you're doing, and the messages that you're getting out there, it becomes the pivotal piece for everything else that you correct. Everything, you could measure everything else. Is it connecting correctly with your brand message? It's like having keywords for your business and saying, okay, does my blog speak to my keywords? Does my blog speak to my message? Does my newsletter speak to my message? Do my graphics speak to my message? Does my website? Because if they are not connecting well, you're creating confusion for your audience. I've been branding my business from day one. 30-second success is, it's a brand in and of itself. People recognize it. They know it's me. Either that or ditch the pitch, right? That's the other thing. I can walk into a room and people will say, hey, ditch the pitch, because it's something I talk about. But with brand is so powerful, but it really ties back to what the message is, right? If I said to you, oh, I help people sell cosmetics, like what does that have to do with 30-second success? Right. Or I do kayaking trips. What does that have to do with 30-second success? But, the brand message is really about helping people develop their 30-second message for networking and video. And it's like, oh, that's powerful. And other people can repeat that for you. So your brand message, the verbal message, has to really connect with everything else you're putting out there verbally, visually, content-wise. They have to be in sync with one another. Mm-hmm. In order for people to carry it forward for you, it has to be memorable. If you're causing confusion for the people that are showing up, they go away thinking, oh, that person doesn't know what they're talking about, right? When everything is cohesive and connected, people think, oh, they've got it going on. They know what they're talking about. They're the expert in their field. They really understand what it means and they know how to help me.
Right. It almost sounds like, because I create value propositions for my clients, and it almost sounds like a version of that, maybe a more expanded version, because usually a value prop, I just did one for a client and I give a primary one and a secondary and I give them 3. And then we talk about strategy on using it. Is it similar? Is it the same?
Yeah, very similar to value proposition or your mission statement. It's, what do you want to be known for? Mm-hmm. Right. What is it that people will come to you for? How do you solve problems? It's that brand message that communicates exactly what it is, the purpose of your business. And that, the value proposition is fundamentally the same thing.
Yeah. And it brought to mind when you said it should be memorable, because there's 5 criteria that I use to evaluate a value proposition. And that's one of them. And it should be succinct and it should be all these other things. So it has to be, and it sounds also like what you're saying is you need to be specific. Like people say, and I post about this on LinkedIn all the time. You can't just say you're the best. What does it even mean? Or, we provide superior customer service. Well, why wouldn't you? Whoever says, we have crappy customer service, but buy from us anyway. So, like how, because I work with people too, where it's like, let's break that down. So is that part of it too, is being specific with how you can help somebody?
Oh, absolutely. Getting rid of all of those fluffy words, right? And really getting to the heart of how you solve people's problems. For me, when I'm working with clients, it's understanding, number one, who your ideal client is. When you have a deep understanding of who your ideal client is, and as you know, how many business owners are afraid to create a niche or really get specific because they're afraid they're going to turn someone else away. But when you start to really create that ideal brand avatar and you really understand on a deep level what keeps them awake at night, what keeps them in a state of fear or inability to move forward in their business, and then how do you solve that problem for them? And if in fact you're not the one to solve their problem, then maybe that's the wrong ideal client for you. But you need to have a good understanding of who your ideal client is so then that you can create that message that speaks specifically to their heart and being very specific, very clear, very concise in how you position yourself as the solution to their problem.
Yeah. I always use the example when I was working as a personal trainer and I had a client who had hurt her shoulder. And I was living in Connecticut, and she was going into the city because there was a female doctor that she liked who specialized in shoulders and only for women. Like such a niche. And she was swamped. The woman was so swamped. But you can imagine if you're a woman and you hurt your shoulder, I mean, this is the best person to go to. You're not just going to a shoulder doctor, you're going to somebody who just works on women's shoulders because it's a whole different thing. So, but you talk a lot about creating connection. So obviously it's important, but why is it important? What's like a step that people could take right now to work towards creating better connections?
Time with the people that are in your network, right? So inviting people to have a virtual conversation. Virtual is the easiest way to connect with a lot of people. Things have changed in the last 2 years to the point that people have gotten very comfortable showing up for meetings virtually. And it's a huge time saver. But it also still gives you the face-to-face as opposed to being on a phone call, because sometimes when you're on a phone call, people are distracted. So when you're face-to-face with people, it's an opportunity, number one, to kind of have that eye connection, the eye contact, really see them, have a good conversation and come away. I mean, you can have a great conversation in 20 to 30 minutes and learn more about someone. The biggest thing I tell people the best way to create connection is ask them about themselves, right? Ask them have really good questions when you show up to a call. And I know that, I'm respecting our time. We have about 30 minutes here. I want to learn more about your work. I want to share a little bit about what I do. So why don't we do this? I'm going to ask you a couple of questions and I'm going to ask you to do the same for me. My questions are really focused on learning more about you and how I can help you. So tell me a little bit about your business. Who is it that you're looking to connect with and how can I make introductions for you? Very simple. And people appreciate that. Like we're busy people. We don't want to be wasting time. So the first step is always having that conversation. And if you find that it's somebody that you really connect with, before you get off the call, say, you know what? I absolutely love meeting you. I feel like there's so much more you and I could dive into together. Why don't we do this? Why don't we schedule another call?
That's great.
And do it before you get off. Do it before you get off, because otherwise, if you don't, you send them a link. They look at the link and they go, yeah, I'll figure it out later, and it never happens. So, and then you've lost it.
Yeah. And so few people do that kind of thing, because I do connect with a lot of people on LinkedIn, and you're one of the rare ones, to the point where, because the last time we talked and you said, here's a couple of people I think it'd be good for you to meet, I was a little bit pleasantly taken back, like, oh, that's right. That's how this is supposed to work. And we have to forget that. I mean, LinkedIn literally by the name is like, okay, we should be linking with each other. And, we kind of forget that sometimes as we get wrapped up in the things. But just last question. So where can people find you and where can they get your book?
So the easiest way to find me is to either connect with me on LinkedIn at 30 Second Success. I brand my company very well. Just look at 30 Second Success on LinkedIn. You'll find me there. And then my website is 30secondsuccess.com. And my book is available on most major bookstores, including Amazon and Barnes & Noble. So easiest way to get that would be to go online and look for it.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Laura. This has been such a great conversation. And I plan on taking action on everything you said that I haven't been doing. So thanks again for your time.
Well, I'm happy to be here with you, and I love sharing insights. So anytime you have questions, please shout out. I'm here.
Thank you.